The king slammed his fist on the golden armrest. Cut off his feet! The guards didn't move. Not yet. They were waiting for the king to say it twice. That's how you knew he meant it. The crime? He had walked into the royal garden. The garden where no common person was allowed. Where the king's daughter sat every day, staring at nothing, seeing nothing. King Chima raised his hand. The guards stepped forward. But then, the boy started to clap. Slow, rhythmic. Each strike of his palms cutting through the silence like a drumbeat. Clap, clap, clap. For the first time in 12 years, Princess Adana moved. Not her hands, not her body, her head. She turned it, slowly, inch by inch, directly toward the sound. The king whispered, "What? What is this?" But the boy named Kanu just kept clapping, and the broken princess smiled. To understand how a kingdom fell apart, you have to go back to when it was still whole. Before the princess went blind, before the king became cruel, before the boy existed. Queen Naledi was the heart of the kingdom.
Isn't this beautiful,
where King Chima was stone,
Yes,
she was
Mommy,
water.
it's like a
Where
dream.
he counted gold,
It is.
she
Hold
counted
my hand
smiles.
tight.
The people loved her, and she loved
My
them back.
queen,
But
blessings
love doesn't
upon
feel
you,
treasures.
and upon you, my
King
child.
Chima had
Wise
a different
queen, a word
priority.
on the harvest.
I am
Expansion,
listening.
conquest, wealth. He made a deal with a neighboring warlord. A trade agreement that would triple the kingdom's gold reserves. The queen begged him not to sign it.
My
They are
king,
slave
this
traders,
path
Chima.
leads to
You
ruin.
cannot. I am building an empire, he said, for our daughter,
They are
for her
slave
future.
traders,
What
Chima.
future will
You
she have?
cannot.
Naledi whispered.
I am
If she
building
grows
an
up in a
empire.
kingdom with no soul, he signed it anyway. The warlord betrayed the king. The trade caravan was ambushed. Not by enemies, but by the warlord's own men dressed
The
as
enemy
bandits.
is here! We have
They
no
stole the
time!
gold and burned the evidence. But they left witnesses. Villagers, women, children. The queen didn't wait for permission. She took a horse, a small guard, and rode to the village to help the survivors. King Chima shouted after her, "You will embarrass the kingdom. Let the governors handle this." She didn't turn around. "Then let me be embarrassed," she said. "At least I will be able to sleep." She never came back. The warlord's men were waiting on the road. They didn't know she was the queen. They just saw a woman with a small guard and assumed she was a wealthy target. When King Chima got the news, he didn't cry. He didn't scream. He just stood in the throne room, staring at his hands. But little Adana, 4-year-old Adana hiding behind a pillar, trembling she had followed her father to the throne room, she heard everything. She heard the messenger describe how they found the queen's body. She heard her father's silence. And something inside that little girl shattered. She didn't sleep that night, or the next, or the next. She just stared at the wall, replaying the messenger's words over and over in her mind. After 2 weeks, she stopped talking. After a month, she stopped looking at people. The king kneeled beside her bed. "Adana, please, say something. Anything." She didn't respond. Her eyes were open, but she wasn't seeing. The royal doctors examined her. There was nothing physically wrong. Her eyes worked perfectly, but she had gone blind anyway. Grief, you see, doesn't just break the heart. Sometimes it breaks the mind. Sometimes it takes your senses and locks them away because seeing the world without the person you love is too painful to bear. The doctors called it trauma blindness. The king called it a curse. He spent fortunes. Herbalists, healers from across the sea, shamans who claimed to speak to the dead. Nothing worked. 12 years passed. Adana grew older, but her eyes never changed. Always empty, always staring at nothing. Princess Adana became a ghost in her own palace. And King Chima became obsessed, not with helping her, but with fixing her. Because a blind princess was a broken princess, and a broken princess made him look weak. Present day. The princess, now 16, sat alone in the garden. Servants brushed her hair. She didn't react. But what the king didn't know, what he refused to believe, was that his daughter wasn't just blind, she was hiding from him. This is where Kanu lived, or survived, really. A shanty town made of mud and sticks. A teenage boy, thin as a stick, sat outside a broken hut. His clothes were rags. His feet were bare and covered in calluses. He was born the same year the queen died. His mother died giving birth to him. No father, no family. The village elders named him Kanu, which means let us see. It was a cruel joke because there was nothing to see, just a skinny orphan who would probably die before he turned 10. But Kanu didn't die. He learned to survive. He learned to run fast, to hide in shadows, and to boil stones in a pot so the neighbors would think he had food cooking. But most importantly, he learned to make music. Not with instruments, he couldn't afford those, but with his body, clapping, stomping, humming, slapping his chest like a drum. When you have nothing, you create something. When the world is silent, you make noise. When you are invisible, you make them see you. Kanu danced because it was the only time he felt alive. The villagers thought he was simple, a fool. But the children loved him. He would teach them rhythms, make them laugh, and turn their hunger into music, even if just for an hour. And then one day, he saw the royal garden. He'd heard about it. Everyone had. The garden where the king's blind daughter sat every day, surrounded by servants who couldn't help her. He didn't plan to break in. He really didn't. But there was a gap in the wall where a tree root had pushed through the stone, just big enough for a skinny boy to squeeze through. It was the most beautiful place he'd ever seen. Flowers he didn't have names for, water so clear you could see the bottom, butterflies that looked like they were painted. He walked slowly, almost reverently, touching a flower and smiling, and then he saw her. Princess Adana sat on a stone bench under a mango tree. She was wearing a white silk dress, her hair braided with gold thread. Servants stood around her like guards. But she didn't move, didn't blink, just existed. Kanu had seen poverty. He'd seen death. He'd seen children with no hope. But he'd never seen someone so alive look so dead. He took a step closer. A servant spotted him. Intruder! Guards! Intruder in the garden! Chaos. 6 guards sprinted from different directions with spears raised. Kanu didn't run. He just stood there, staring at the princess. They grabbed him, slammed him to the ground, and dragged him to the palace. "Do you know what you've done?" the king roared. "No common filth is allowed in that garden. No one is allowed near my daughter." "Why?" Kanu asked. The king blinked. "What? Why does she sit there?" Kanu said. "If she can't see it, if she can't enjoy it, what's the point?" King Chima's face turned purple. Cut off his feet. The guards raised their spears, and that's when Kanu did the only thing he knew how to do. Clap, clap, clap. The rhythm echoed through the throne room. Everyone froze. And then, from the garden outside, a small sound. A laugh, a child's laugh. Princess Adana was laughing. Everyone ran to the garden. There she was. Princess Adana was standing. Her hands were moving, clapping. She was copying the sound. The king fell to his knees. "Adana, you moved." Tears were streaming down her face, but she was still laughing. A broken, rusty sound, like she'd forgotten how. The king looked back at Kanu, who was still being held by the guards. "What did you do to her?" the king whispered. Kanu shrugged. "I just clapped." The king stood slowly and walked to Kanu, grabbing his face, searching his eyes. "Are you a sorcerer? A witch?" "No, your majesty. I'm just me." The king released him and stepped back. "Do it again." Kanu started a new rhythm. Faster this time, more complex. Clap, clap, stomp. Clap, clap, stomp. Princess Adana's head tilted, listening. Then her foot tapped. Once, twice. The king's breath caught. She's dancing. You have to understand. This girl hadn't moved voluntarily in 12 years. 12 years of doctors, priests, and magicians all failing, and a barefoot orphan boy did it in 30 seconds. Kanu kept the rhythm going for 5 minutes. By the end, Princess Adana was swaying side to side. Her hands moved in patterns. Her lips mouthed words no one could hear. Kanu stopped. The princess stopped too, suddenly lost without the rhythm. She stood there, trembling, then slowly sat back down on her bench. Her eyes went empty again. But for 5 minutes, she'd been alive. The king grabbed Kanu by the shoulders, his voice shaking. "What is your name?" "Kanu, your majesty." "Kanu, you will stay here, in the palace. You will do this every day until my daughter is cured. Do you understand?" Kanu nodded slowly. "And if you try to run," the king added, his voice dropping to ice, "I will hunt you down and cut off more than your feet." That's how Kanu became a prisoner in the most beautiful cage in the kingdom. Every morning, Kanu would come to the garden, and every morning he would make music. Week 1, she tapped her foot. Week 2, she hummed along. Week 3, she clapped back. The princess's hands met Kanu's in rhythm. The king watched from his balcony every single day. The court started to gossip. "The king has brought a peasant into the palace. They say he's bewitched the princess. Dark magic, surely." The king silenced them with a look. "If he cures her, I don't care if he's the devil himself." By week 4, Princess Adana was standing during the sessions, swaying, moving. Her eyes were still unfocused, but her body was remembering something her mind had forgotten. Kanu stepped back. "Now try it alone." He let go. The princess stood by herself, her legs shaking. She took one step, then another. Her face broke into the most beautiful smile. The servants gasped. The guards stood straighter. The king gripped the balcony railing so hard his knuckles turned white. My daughter is walking." If you believe that kindness is more powerful than gold, hit that like button right now to show your support for Kanu, because what happens next will break your heart. The princess took 3 more steps. 4, 5. She was laughing now, crying and laughing at the same time. She reached for Kanu. He reached back, and then she collapsed. The princess crumpled to the ground like a puppet with cut strings. Her head hit the stone. A scream. Kanu dove to catch her, but he was too late. She was unconscious, blood trickling from her temple. The guards rushed in. The king came sprinting down the stairs. He shoved Kanu aside. "What did you do to her?" "Nothing. She fell. I tried to..." The king grabbed Kanu by the throat, lifting him off the ground. "You pushed her too hard. You broke her again." "Your Majesty, please. She was doing so well." The royal physician arrived and checked the princess's pulse. "She's alive, Your Majesty, but she's retreated again." Her eyes were open, but empty again. The light was gone. "She's blind again," the king whispered. "You brought her back just to break her worse." The king released Kanu. He fell to the ground, coughing. "I want you in the dungeons, now." "But Your Majesty, if I could just..." "Now!" Guards dragged Kanu away. He looked back at the princess, tears streaming. I'm so sorry, Adana." 3 days passed in the dungeon. No food, no water, no light except the torch outside his cell. On the 4th day, he heard footsteps. It was her. Princess Adana stood at the cell door. Her eyes were focused, seeing. "Kanu?" Kanu's head jerked up. "Adana, you can see." "Only a little, only sometimes, but I can see you. Why did you do it? Why did you help me?" "Because you reminded me of me." Kanu smiled weakly. Alone, pretending to be okay, hiding from a world that hurt too much. "My father is going to kill you," she whispered. "When I collapsed, he thinks you're a witch. He's bringing the priest tomorrow." "Then tell him the truth," Kanu said, reaching through the bars. "That you were never broken. That you've been protecting yourself the only way you knew how. and that he needs to stop trying to fix you and start trying to understand you. He won't listen to me, the princess sobbed. He never has. Then make him listen, Kanu said. You have a voice now. Use it. The princess nodded, squeezed his hand, and left. Kanu sat alone in the dark, whispering to himself, "Let us see." The throne room was filled the next morning. King Chima sat with Father Dubaku beside him. "Bring the witch," the king ordered. Kanu was dragged in, bruised and weak. Father Dubaku stepped forward. "Kanu of no house, you are accused of dark sorcery, of enchanting the princess, of causing her collapse through demonic..." The throne room doors slammed open. Princess Adana walked in. Her dress was dirty, her hair uncombed, but her eyes were clear and burning. "Father, stop this." "Adana, you should be resting." "I've been resting for 12 years, she said, her voice strong. "Now I'm done." She walked to the center of the room and faced her father. "Kanu didn't bewitch me. He didn't hurt me. He gave me something you forgot to give me after mother died." Drop a heart in the comments if this story is hitting different. "And what was that?" the king whispered. "Permission to be broken." The king's face crumbled. I tried to fix you." "You tried to erase me," Adana said. "You brought doctors to make me normal, priests to make me obedient. You spent fortunes to make me the perfect princess again. But you never once asked me what I needed." "What did you need?" "I needed you to cry with me. I needed you to say her name. I needed you to stop pretending that losing mother was something we could just move past. Kanu didn't cure my eyes, father. He reminded me that joy still exists, that the world isn't just pain, that I could choose to see again when I was ready." The princess walked to Kanu and kneeled beside him. "And I fell because I pushed myself too hard, because I wanted so badly to show you I was better, to make you proud, to be enough for you." The king covered his face, his shoulders shaking. "You were always enough. Then why did it take a stranger to make me believe that?" Long, terrible silence. The king stood and walked slowly to his daughter and Kanu. He kneeled before them both. "Release him," the king said quietly. "Your Majesty, this is..." the priest protested. "I said release him." The chains fell. Kanu rubbed his wrists. "Forgive me," King Chima whispered to his daughter. "Forgive me for being so afraid of losing you that I forgot how to love you." Later that day, in the king's private chamber, Chima asked, "I need to know, how did you do it?" "Truly, no magic, no tricks, just how?" "I told her about my life," Kanu said. "About being alone, about boiling stones so people would think I had food, about dancing in the market for scraps, about all the days I wanted to disappear. And I told her that the only thing that kept me alive was making music, because even when you have nothing, you can still make something beautiful. You can still choose joy." Adana added, "He showed me that being broken isn't the same as being destroyed, that I could carry my grief and still live, that I could miss mother and still see the sunrise." "You didn't cure her," the king whispered. "You just walked beside her." "Yes, Your Majesty." The king stood and looked out at his kingdom. "I have spent 12 years trying to control everything. The kingdom, the treasury, my daughter's healing. I thought that's what a king does. Control. But you, with nothing, did what I with everything could not. You let her be human." The king removed the royal ring from his finger. "This ring is given to those who save the kingdom. You saved more than a kingdom, Kanu. You saved the only thing that mattered." He pressed the ring into Kanu's palm and did something unthinkable. He bowed. "Thank you," the king whispered. "Thank you for loving my daughter when I forgot how." 3 months later, the garden was open to the public. The king had torn down the walls. "If my wife died trying to help the people," he said, "then this garden should belong to them." Subscribe if you want more stories that remind you what it means to be human. Princess Adana sat on her bench, but not alone. Children were around her as she taught them to clap rhythms. Her sight came and went, some days clear, some days blurry. But she didn't hide anymore. Kanu was in the village, building a school with the king's gold. "I belong here," he said, "with the people who need to remember that joy doesn't cost anything." King Chima became a different ruler. Not perfect, not suddenly wise, but present. Every year, on the anniversary of Queen Naledi's death, they would sit under the mango tree, the king, the princess, and Kanu, and they would tell stories about her. The good ones, the hard ones, the beautiful ones. Healing doesn't erase the scars, it just teaches you how to live with them. Sometimes, the greatest magic isn't making the blind see. It's teaching the broken that they were never truly shattered, just waiting for someone kind enough to see them whole. Comment let us see if this made you cry, because if it did, you're exactly who this channel is for.